sit on them.
Please rise in body or spirit and join me in our opening hymn. We're going to sit at the welcome table, number 407 in the gray hymnal, and the words are on the screen. We're gonna sit at the welcome table. We're gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days, hallelujah. We're gonna sit at the welcome table. Gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. All kinds of people around that table. All kinds of people around the table one of these days, hallelujah. All kinds of people around that table. Gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. No fancy style at the welcome table. No fancy style at the welcome table one of these days, hallelujah. No fancy style at the welcome table. Gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. Please be seated.
Come, come, whoever you are. Come with your hurts, your imperfections, your places that feel raw and exposed. Come, come, whoever you are. Come with your strengths that the world shudders to hold. Come with your wild imaginings of a better world. Come with your hopes that it seems no one wants to hear.
Wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaping, we will make a place for you. We will build a home together. Ours is no caravan of despair. We travel together. Come, yet again, come.
Today we light our chalice not because we must, but because we may. We light this chalice not because we have the truth, but because we each come bearing and seeking many truths. You have the other one?
We light this chalice in connection across culture, distance, class, and language. We light this chalice that our faith may be a beacon of light, hope, and justice. We light this chalice to kindle our hearts and our minds.
So good morning and welcome to the Eno River Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, or ERUUF as we like to say. I'm Reverend Jacqueline Brett, and whoever you are, wherever you come from, whatever your race, your gender identity, whomever you love, and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, we welcome you here to create and be in beloved community with us. And if you are visiting with us for the first time, we invite you to rise in body or spirit so that we might give you an ERUUF welcome. And if you're online, we invite you to put your name in the chat box. Thank you all for choosing to spend this Labor Day weekend, Sunday morning with us. One of the things that you'll notice for those of you who come here more frequently and all the time is that we're doing things a little bit different this morning, and with that might be some little hiccups and bumps, but just be with us in all of this. We are co-creating this together. If you have children with you, our We do have religious exploration today, so if you have children with you, right after the Time for All Ages, kids are all welcome to join in our religious exploration classes and just follow other people out after the Time for All Ages, and then you'll figure out how to have your child signed into class should they wish to do so. So this is our first Sunday back to 2 services, and normally what we have on Sunday is an inquirer's class for our visitors and newcomers. For this 11 o'clock service, that class starts at 10 a.m. And so it's no longer after the service, it's in between the services so that we can accommodate both the 9 a.m. service and the 11 o'clock service. So if you're here for the first time, and we hope you will join us again, you can come to, we invite you to come at 10 o'clock and you will be able to find out a little bit about us, and we can learn something about you in our series of Inquirers classes. There's a new class every week for a series of 8 different classes, and during which you'll learn some things about ERUUF. So now would be a great time to turn off or down any devices on your person. And we apologize to our parents who might have little ones with them, infants that would normally be in the nursery. Due to the holiday weekend, we don't have nursery workers this weekend. So we apologize for that. And many of our parents this weekend are off camping. So we have an annual Labor Day family camping trip that some of our families are on this weekend. So now, why don't we center ourselves again? And take a deep breath in and let it out. And so we begin our service weaving beloved community by hearing about our chalice lighting, chalice circles, and covenant groups. And Marietta Goes and Rick Hendricks will share with us about that.
Good morning. Hi. Rick and I are co-leaders of the Second Thursday Chalice Circle, and we would like you to know that September is the time when we form our chalice circles and our covenant groups for the new year. Two members of our chalice circle had prepared some words to talk about their very extensive experience with small group ministry over the years. This would be Rich and Marcia Cherubel. Marcia's not feeling well, so Rick and I are going to be reading the words that they've prepared for you today. Good morning. I'm Marcia Cherubel. Rich and I joined ERUUF in 2014, and one of the first things we did was to join a chalice circle. We had been in small groups before at All Souls UU Kansas City and had good, meaningful experiences. We have continued joining groups whenever possible. Small groups are clearly not therapy sessions nor casual meetups, but rather are opportunities for thoughtful listening and deep, confidential, personal sharing. We have found these sessions to be quite thought-provoking, meaningful, refreshing, and often a source of lasting friendships.
The meetings also help us develop a feeling of belonging and will provide opportunities for service as a group. The groups are organized by trained leaders who establish general procedures and can offer discussion topics, but also will encourage others to introduce a self-chosen topic. Many topics are chosen from the spiritual focus of the month in the Sunday services calendar, our calendar here at ERUUF. Some of our topics have been hope, creativity, wonder, and generosity. There are many other topics available in various online listings.
There's a difference between cellist circles and covenant groups in that cellist circles meet once a month for about 2 hours, and covenant groups meet twice a month. The general format of the sessions for both type groups are the same, including a chosen topic, readings, quotations, thoughtful questions, and encouragement to allow every member to speak once before anyone speaks a second time. The session runs from October to May or June for cellist circles, and often a full year for covenant groups. Some groups of both types stay together even longer.
We hope more people will join this great program. However, it is important to sign up by September 20th in order to put groups together by October. At ERUUF, there are always enough multiple days, times, and locations for these groups to meet. When you sign up, you need to be clear about your own schedule so that a meeting fitting your days and times can be offered. There is often a waiting list for latecomers. Look for our table in the September 17th Connections Fair to sign up and get more information. Also, there is an opportunity to sign up today after this service in Fellowship Hall. And finally, Marcia, we hope you're feeling better real soon, and we all look forward to having you and Rich join us at our September meeting.
Thank you. And we hope that you'll all consider joining this Chalice Circle. For me, it's been one of the most meaningful things in my life. Thank you.
I invite the children and those young at heart to come down to the front of the sanctuary to enjoy the story. There's time for all ages. Come on down, kids, grown-ups.
Hi.
You can come in a bit closer. The story is called The Day You Begin. It's written by Jacqueline Woodson and illustrated by Rafael Lopez. There will be times when you walk into a room and no one there is quite like you. Have any of you felt that? Yeah? Maybe it will be your skin, your clothes, or the curl of your hair. There will be times when no one understands the way words curl from your mouth, the beautiful language of the country you left behind. My name is Rigoberto. We just moved here from Venezuela. And because they don't understand, the classroom will fill with laughter until the teacher quiets everyone. Rigoberto, from Venezuela, your teacher says, so soft and beautifully that your name and homeland sound like flowers blooming the first bright notes of a song. There will be times when the words don't come. Your own voice, once huge, now smaller, when the teacher asks, "What did you do last summer? Tell the class your story." "We went to France," Shayla says. "These shells come from a beach in Maine." A boy named Jonathan holds up a jar filled with tiny shells, so fragile they look like they'll turn to dust in your own untraveled hands. My whole family went to India, Spain, South Carolina. Each souvenir a small triumph of a journey. Their travel is going on and on. And as you stand in front of them, of that room, you can only remember how the heat waved as it lifted off the curb, and your days spent at home caring for your little sister, who made you laugh out loud and hugged you hard at nap time. You can only remember the books you kept on reading long after she had gone to sleep. And in that room, where no one else is quite like you, you'll look down at your own empty hands and wonder, what good is this when others... Where is it? Other students were flying and sailing and going somewhere. There will be times when the lunch your mother packed for you is too strange or too unfamiliar for others to love as you do. When even your own friend Nadia will wrinkle her nose and say, "What is in there anyway?" And you'll wonder how she doesn't see that rice hidden beneath the meat and kimchi. You'll wonder why she doesn't remember that rice is the most popular food in the world. There will be times when the climbing bars are too high. Have any of you felt that? You can't reach them? When the run is too fast and far, the game isn't one you can ever really play. Oh, I don't want him on my team. You can watch. Maybe you can have a turn later. There will be times when the world feels like a place that you're standing all the way outside of. And all that stands beside you is your own brave self, steady as steel and ready, even though you don't yet know what you're ready for. There will be times when you walk into a room and no one there is quite like you, until the day you begin to share your stories. My name is Angelina, and I spent my whole summer with my little sister, you tell the class, your voice stronger than it was a minute ago, reading books and telling stories. And even though we were right on our block, it felt like we got to go everywhere. Your name is like my sister's, Rigoberto says. Her name is Angelina too. And all at once, in the room where no one else is quite like you, the world opens itself up a little wider to make some space for you. This is the day you begin to find the places inside your laughter and your lunches, your books, your travel, and your stories, where every new friend has something a little like you and something else so fabulously not quite like you at all. That's the story. Thank you. And now you can go to your religious exploration classes. Thank you very much for coming down, and off you go.
Would you please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing Love Will Guide Us, hymn 131 in your gray hymnal, and the lyrics are on the screen. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside.
On this beautiful September Sunday, you have chosen to spend your time here. Thank you for coming together to create fellowship and community. So please join me now for a time in the spirit of meditation and prayer. Spirit of life, we give thanks for the many ways we can find a sense of belonging here, a place of refuge and purpose, grounded in shared values, a place that calls us to action to engage the work of justice, a place where we radiate joy, love, and a spirit of generosity, a welcoming place we call ERUUF. Today we celebrate Labor Day weekend and honor the value of work, recognizing the contributions of those who have built the spaces where we live, the roads we travel, farms and schools, cities and communities, and even this very place we gather. We have so much to be thankful for today. Yet in our commitment to equity, we also acknowledge that the legacy of labor in this country is challenging to face, that there is need for healing, reconciliation, and justice, for continued advocacy and action to protect workers' rights and basic human rights, to dismantle unjust systems, and to create a more equitable world for all. In a spirit of unity, we lift up all of our prayers and blessings. Together, we breathe in compassion. As a community of care, we hold in our hearts all those impacted by major weather events recently: hurricane, fire, flooding. We hold in our hearts the Barnhill-Dilling family in their time of sorrow, as Eleanor Barnhill-Dilling's grandfather and Rick Barnhill-Dilling's father died this week. We hold in our hearts Susan Spitzer, who is home from recent hospital visits and is preparing for a surgery. She appreciates prayers and good thoughts for her health. We hold in our hearts the students, staff, and faculty of UNC Chapel Hill and all those impacted by the recent incident on campus. We hold in our hearts and lift up all those whose lives are touched by illness or loneliness, worry or despair. May they find comfort and healing. We hold in our hearts all who seek a place of belonging and support, and honor this moment together in silence. And so it is. Amen. Ashe, and blessed be.
How are y'all today? Whenever I am asked, how are you today? I have often answered with, good, okay, fine. Even though that doesn't describe it. In an exchange like that, do we experience welcome? Do we experience belonging? I'd like to start this with a little experiment. I hope you'll join me. So in a moment, I'll ask the question again. Only this time, I invite each of you to speak one word that describes how you're feeling right now. Please respond in your own time. I'll share too. Okay, here we go. How are y'all today? A little nervous. Thank you for sharing that. I'm so grateful that you did. I believe that sharing this truth is a beginning to belonging. It is courageous and beautiful. How others receive it is one way that I know if I am welcome. In my own heart and mind, I often explore what it means to be welcome and to belong. Understanding what welcome and belonging is not has been in focus for much of my life. Understanding what welcome and belonging is, how to experience it, and how to create it has been something of a growing edge. To me, being in the absence of welcome and belonging feels like lying to survive. In those spaces, I act in an acceptable way instead of an authentic way. When there's pressure to be, believe, and value what is normal, it feels unacceptable to explore who I am, what I believe, and what is important to me. In those spaces, my voice goes unheard. My needs go unmet. I become smaller. The opposite must be true when welcome and belonging are the norm. When I am in spaces like that, the tension in my body can release. I become less afraid to be this messy, glorious, imperfect person that I am. I'm invited to take up space and test my own edges. Mistakes and stumbles are opportunities to learn and to support each other. I believe that others will uplift me if I fall. I become expansive. Friends, I wish that I could tell you that it is easy to find spaces like this, but that has not been my experience. They appear as blessings in a sea of absence, little islands. Navigating the waters within a culture of dominance requires so much of our strength, our resilience, and energy just to survive. I believe that true welcome and belonging exists when every one of us has the opportunity to become expansive. Can we be an island of welcome and belonging for everyone who seeks safe harbor here? Every day, I hold the intention that we can.
This Monday, August 28th, was predicted to be quite noteworthy. though what now readily comes to mind, which none of us could know beforehand, but in deeply unfortunate ways no longer surprises us, was the incident at UNC Chapel Hill, which impacted so many, even those beyond the college campus, even us here at ERUUF. We express our feelings of remorse and regret for all those involved, as well as for the continued gun violence all over our country and the layers of complexity that underlie such violence. The legislation around gun control is only but one of those layers. We acknowledge that it is a very important one. The other reason Monday was predicted to be noteworthy was because it was the first day many of our children were returning back to school after summer break, which I only realized was happening during my morning walk that day when I began seeing the many school buses headed out quite early to pick children up for school. But perhaps the most significant reason this past August 28th was initially believed to be newsworthy, at least before the unfortunate events at UNC, was that it was the 60th anniversary of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s iconic "I Have a Dream" address, delivered at the Lincoln Memorial as a keynote for the 1963 Civil Rights March on Washington, D.C. It was estimated that 250,000 people were there in person. I actually met someone in our last service who said she had been there in person. This was a large number, even by today's standards, and the presence of television cameras, still somewhat unusual for such an event at that time, allowed the entire nation, and later the world, and even those of us who are here today, decades later, to see and hear the words that have resonated among the most memorable in the canon of our nation's greatest oratory and language, professing freedom and liberty, vision and aspiration on behalf of those for whom freedom still did not yet fully exist. With not only a call to action, but a demand for action by those who continue to withhold the freedom considered to be every American's birthright. No matter what one might think or feel or believe about Dr. King, few would deny that his address strikes a powerful chord in those who hear or even read it. And I suggest that each of you take a moment to read it. You can actually find copies of it right on the internet. Just Google the speech, and there are libraries all over the place that offer PDFs of the speech. It, in my view, provides an even richer experience to read these words that we're so accustomed to hearing. When I was a child and was first learning of this speech, the words that most captured my own imagination were those words about children, especially as Dr. King spoke of his own 4 children and the world he wanted for them when he said, "I have a dream, my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by content of their character. I have a dream today." Though I lived in New York City and not in the South, as Dr. King did, at much too young of an age, I understood quite specifically what this father of young children was longing for. And I believe his words continue to resonate so powerfully today because most of us, no matter who we are, similarly long for this, not only for children, but for our grown-up selves as well. We not only want to know that somehow our character is being well judged, but we want it because ultimately what we want is to belong. and to know that a rightful place for each of us that is just and fair within the community of all, just for the mere fact that we are all simply human. And that systems that cause anything other than this to exist must be dismantled, must be transformed. In our day-to-day lives, belonging begins with the feeling that we are welcome, that even if we were not initially expected, that we will somehow be welcomed and eventually accepted within the places and spaces within which we find ourselves. I was struck by August 28th being the start of school because this is when many of us began to have our first and repeated experiences of welcome or unwelcome, especially among strangers, whether they be other children or adults, whether on school buses, in classrooms, lunchrooms, or in schoolyards. Such experiences can range on a spectrum of being warm and rich to absolutely devastating in their negative impact. We form visceral reactions and attitudes, coping strategies, and ways of being in the world as a result of the impact of these earliest experiences of welcome or unwelcome, of acceptance or non-acceptance by others, of coming to understand just how much of our full selves we might bring into a space, that we might entrust others with seeing or knowing or holding. No matter where we are, most of us are longing for a connection of some sort. What was once a part of our ancestral pattern tens of thousands of years ago of connecting for reasons of survival has become the evolution of our species as 21st century human beings in our Western cultures that are beset by an epidemic of loneliness, with the US ranking highest and other countries considering it a health crisis, and the UK even creating a government commission on it. So knowing that we are welcome and will eventually find belonging and acceptance is not only key to who we are, but it continues to remain critically necessary for our individual and collective survival and well-being. Most of us can sense right away whether we have entered into a space or are among people who give us a baseline welcome. When I enter a space, I am always watchful of how people are receiving me. Some of this is my own learned behavior, my own ways of making sure that I have entered into a place where I feel somewhat safe. And because this baseline welcome is the easy stuff, what I call surface welcome, people are polite, they're nice, because they have good home training, or maybe even good customer training or good church training. So when this easy stuff is not there, I feel myself becoming more vigilant and also curious about what might happen next. Because something allows us on the receiving end to know when it stops right there at the surface and will not go any further. Though it is possible, it could get worse. Southerners are especially adept at this first level welcome of politeness and niceness, which quite frankly, as a very direct and upfront native New Yorker, I did not appreciate any of that at first. It offended my sensibilities. But after a couple of years being in North Carolina, I arrived at a New York airport and experienced rudeness from workers at the airport who seemed to have this attitude, hey, you're in New York, you want us to be nice to you too? I was absolutely outraged, to be quite honest with you. And I suddenly longed for to appreciate it, that Southerners began from a place of at least being cordial. And it was at that moment that I realized, as my son says, that I had become Southernized. Though having lived in New York, I understood that whole range of behavior and why it was so. And I also realized I had absolutely no desire to live there again. A layer deeper in being welcomed is authentic conversation and engagement of someone acknowledging, I see you. And I recognize that you might be a person with a life and a body and something more than just someone hanging out in the space. And perhaps if I'm lucky, they'll see me again the next time I show up. Or because I tend to be an open, friendly person, maybe I'll see them the next time I show up and I'll initiate the hello, which will hopefully be acknowledged. And over time, maybe I'll connect more deeply with them or with someone else. Or maybe I won't. And that too can be okay and just what is needed at times. There's a very big difference between encountering unwelcome or hostile behavior versus coming to realization that this is not the place for me for some other reason. Maybe we're too big, or maybe we're too small, maybe this, or maybe that. I sometimes surprise some of our visitors when I ask whether they've been to our neighboring UU congregations. And if not, I will sometimes suggest that they go and visit the other UU congregations in the area as well. We're all a part of the same ice cream shop, I say. And sometimes what people are looking for is different ice cream, and we just don't happen to be their flavor, and that is actually all right. We're still part of the same ice cream shop. Somewhat connected to all of this, though, is a third level of welcome, which is actually quite unconscious. It's all of the cultural things that allow each of us to know on a deeper, unspoken level that who I am and who we are is either accepted here together in this same place or it is not. Is it possible for us to figure out a way to make space for one another, to address our varying needs and to celebrate our differences? And to acknowledge that, yes, we are quite different from each other, even as we are also interconnected, even as we exist in oneness. This is something of a paradox known in some schools of Buddhism as the doctrine of two truths, that there is the ultimate truth of oneness and interconnection, and the relative truth of our difference, that we are all having different experiences as human beings. And it's important that we acknowledge this. The Zen teacher Zenju Earthland Manuel has termed this the multiplicity of oneness, and says when we try to manipulate the nature of our oneness into a flat, one-dimensional sameness, we choose to ignore the concurrent multiplicity of nature. When we look out onto a garden and see curly willow trees, roses, succulents, collard greens, and plum blossoms, we are witnessing oneness. One of our goals here at ERUUF is the co-creation of such a welcoming space together, holding our relative truths, especially when they're uncomfortable, and working with them. Perhaps each of us as gardeners of a sort, as we acknowledge that we are both different one from another and also ultimately interconnected in our oneness. I believe that, as David alluded to, that we here at ERUUF hold a unique capacity to extend welcome. So many of us have arrived here as seekers and people searching for a place that would accept us or our families in ways that many other communities often reject us for any number of reasons. Whether it is in the nature of our thinking and our wanting to understand the cosmos and our place within it, or in some aspect of our physical and spiritual ways of being and our understanding of who we are and of ourselves. Or maybe it is the very real need for sanctuary. We have a ways to go before it can be said that we here at ERUUF do this even adequately, let alone well. And this is no critique. It is simply no easy task to claim religious pluralism and to actually attempt to live it out, to claim to honor the inherent worth and dignity of all people, and to have those people all in the same room with their incredible reactions and ideas and opinions that differ from our own, and to be willing to hold our hearts and minds open nonetheless. To not make them wrong or somehow morally lacking because they hold a differing view. This is not easy, nor is it anything for us to be proud of or even ashamed of. When this is happening for me, I open myself to curiosity about the other person, seeking to truly understand something I might be making assumptions or unconsciously creating stories about. And when I am facing resistance, my own resistance, to be curious about what is up with me. What is all the resistance? What might it mean to be in space with another, someone I might find difficult, as I extend compassion, grace, and ease, as I would want someone to be with me when they find me difficult? An ultimate outcome of welcome is that of belonging. Those of you who ever receive email from me know that my signature includes the word Ubuntu, which is a Bantu word of South Africa, which is often translated as, I am because you are, and you are because I am. The concept was made popular the world over by the late South African Archbishop Desmond Tutu. The interesting thing to know about the South African philosophy of Ubuntu is that it not only refers to you and I as human beings, but it recognizes that all things are you and I. Animals, trees, the sky and mountains, waters and rocks. The Ethiopian American writer Sabine Selassie writes, Ubuntu recognizes the inherent interconnection of reality. It respects and honors absolutely everything as fundamentally interdependent. Ubuntu communicates a profound truth understood by the ancients, but only recently acknowledged in modern science. Things appear to be independent, and we function in a world of distinction, but ultimately there is no separation. We must take care with all reality, she writes. We must take care of other humans, nature, and what is unseen. Indigenous wisdom, like modern science, it recognizes that every observer affects reality, and also there are realities beyond what we ordinarily observe. I am because you are, and my every action is connected to you, and your every action is connected to me. Ultimately, as Desmond Tutu said, we are because we belong. If we are to believe the truth of our interconnection, as our UU principles say, of our interdependence and oneness, we are always extended a hand of welcome. And we must also believe the truth of our ultimate belonging everywhere and always. May it be so, my friends. It is so. Amen and Ashe. As we weave the fabric of beloved community, it takes all that we might care to give and offer to this community in order to do so. Everything that we see here and experience here is because all of us here. And so we give our time, we give our talent, we give our treasure, and you will notice a new thing on the screen. And so I would love it if some of you, if you wish, you can hold up your device. And if you wish to give today, you can hold up your device and it will take you directly to the ERUUF giving portal. And we learned this from General Assembly this past June, where they did that all the time and everywhere. And so we're trying it here. And so you can either, the greeters, you can come forward and they will pass the plates for those of you who want to put something in the plate. And that is a wonderful tradition to have as well. And if you wish to give online, you can lift your phone and give me a thumbs up if you do it and it works. We're still trying it out. Or you can simply go to eruf.org and give. Thank you, Don. And give that way. And I will turn it over to you. And we give thanks for all of the gifts of beloved community. And Rachel and Chris will actually be staying after the closing words to give the preludes for anybody who want to sit and listen to their wonderful Baroque horns. I don't know, it's really touched something in me. I don't know. It's just, maybe it's part of that sound vibe that I've been really feeling. It's really nice. Anyway, on to you, Wendy.
Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing The Fire of Commitment, number 1028 in your teal hymnal. And of course, the words are on the screen. From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion call to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
Our closing words this morning are the last paragraph of Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech. And he said, when we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every town and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, God Almighty, we are free at last. May it be so, my friends. Go in peace and go in love.
Thank you.